I'm not as technical as some of the Bitcoin Core developers, but my view is this: I trust the nuclear scientists to build a nuclear reactor for my energy that's not going to kill me, and I trust the decentralized nature of the Bitcoin Core developers to aggregate and provide the signature aggregation that will allow Bitcoin to scale and provide the same exact features that Satoshi originally built to rid the world of government fiat currencies.
All right, now we can start the show. Yeah, we just spent a bunch of time trying to set up our computers to record properly. And
Yeah, so normally we use Audacity, but I updated to Catalina and then it stopped working. I was like, what the hell? And I go to the Audacity work site and it goes, does not support Catalina. I was like,
oh! Man, as soon as hyper-Bitcoinization is a thing, we won't have to worry about audio recording programs failing us.
yeah, this garbage.
So hello, everyone. Keyword crypto. I'm JJ, the dumb kid, and I'm here with Michael, the shitcoin shill. And this is the second episode we've recorded this week, right? We did one on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we're on a roll.
We are on a roll.
We wanted to come back on the air, and at least I wanted to, because I realized there's just so much fucking drama, and mainly on Twitter, but now it's leaked over into YouTube. And I realized that I was doing this thing that so many personalities in crypto do, where they really just create content for the people who are already invested and following crypto. And it becomes this kind of just gross inside joke for everyone. And it's not really what it's not what I want our podcast to be about. So it's kind of important that we come back on the air and talk about the fact that when we mention Richard Hart and his Hex project, we're not endorsing his project. We don't even think it's a good idea. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that it could be a bad idea.
Well, I'm on the fence.
We should all be on the fence when it comes to
But
stuff
I'm definitely
like
not
this.
endorsing it. I don't think anybody should put money into it.
Yeah.
I think if you have Bitcoin and you want to claim it, somebody said even just doing that is supporting a scam, and I was just like,
Right.
somebody wants to give me free cryptocurrency, I'm not going to say no. Sorry.
So like the way to sum up this story and what we're talking about is you've got a guy who historically has been a big Bitcoin guy, Bitcoin maximalist all the way, who decided that he was going to create his own token, his own crypto, for the sole purpose of making people rich, which kind of sounds like a Ponzi scheme. And every other Bitcoin maximalist freaked out. And Richard Hart, the guy who created this, has been going around kind of just debating them and kind of destroying them in debates.
Yeah.
And recently, Peter McCormack was humiliated not just once, but twice live when he went onto Richard's stream uninvited. And,
the second time.
And humiliated himself. So this is the lamest part of crypto. And I just wanted to get that out there. It's really fun for us to talk about, and it's kind of fun for us to like see what's going on. But this is the kind of shit that makes Bitcoin and crypto it's going to fail because of this ridiculously stupid marketing campaign it has of being dramatic. I don't know how else to put it. Like my wife,
it's just sad.
My wife last night, she's like, every once in a while, she's like, "So Jeff, what's going on in Bitcoin?" I'm like, and then I start talking about it, and she's like, it sounds like Bitcoin has a marketing problem.
It absolutely does. And this is like Bitcoin has the same problem Occupy Wall Street had. It's just too many heads. There's no clear message. And the only kind of cohesive message that the Bitcoin community has is toxicity. And that's it.
And
they don't have anything positive to talk about.
And, and then so she was saying, well, like, you'd think the people that promote Bitcoin would do more work to promote Bitcoin. It's like,
oh my God.
I mean, this is what happens is you get like people making weird cartoons on 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 YouTube to promote their version of Bitcoin, and it's just becomes just a fucking shit show, really.
Yeah.
And that I admit that's one of the reasons I'm interested in it, is because there's so many weird stories, and it starts off this sort of like question of, do we really want banks and governments in control of our money? And it turns into, oh my God, do you know who said what about whom and why? And
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
so
It's pathetic. I mean, and I try not to get too much into it. And so, like I was telling JJ before we started, I've recently gotten blocked by Pierre Richard and Samson Mao, because I'm just going to assume because they're tired of critique and people just being like open and honest about like, hey, you guys don't really know what you're talking about. You don't like. I think the Pierre comment was he was just making these just asinine comments about just society works and economics works and this and that, and there's no such thing as poor people and everyone's fine. And I'm just like, bro, you really need to get out of your rich Bitcoin bubble, walk down to the local coffee shop in a blue collar town and just sit there and just listen. You don't even need to talk to anybody. Just listen and see that things aren't actually working for the majority of Americans, and probably blue collar Canadians too. I think they're probably better off because they have healthcare. But in America, man, it's just like everybody wants to be this capitalist, juggernaut like America, but we're not doing so well unless you're in the top 10%. Everybody else is really struggling.
I don't know, man. I walk down to my local Blue Bottle Coffee and everyone seems to be doing fine there.
That costs like $15 a bottle.
Costs $15. It takes 10 minutes to make for some reason. But you know what?
Because don't they cold press it on site?
Yeah. I mean, that's that.
Oh,
where
San
there is
Francisco.
demand, where there
Gotta
is
love it.
demand and supply. I'm gonna make lukewarm coffee that takes 15 minutes to make and charge you $15 for it. $1 a minute. Yeah, that's the part of California that I live in. It's crazy.
Yeah, LA is not that much better. I've kind of given myself maybe like another year or two, and then just kind of give up and like, and everyone's like, you should move to Austin. It's like, okay, I lived in Austin
Oh, you did?
10 years ago, and it's not that much cheaper now.
No, it's really not. It costs a lot to live everywhere right now. And yeah. All right, let's talk about some more crypto stuff.
Let's talk about crypto.
So, all right, we talked about, we mentioned, we wanted to give you a new fresh take on the Richard Hearn Hex thing, which, we're impressed with what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, and really fast, the shit got so toxic around Peter after those two things. He tweeted today that he's like going to take a hiatus from
I know. That's
Twitter.
really embarrassing.
I doubt it'll last, but he's like, it's just become too toxic, and it's like, bro, you're the toxicity.
Yeah.
If you don't like how toxic it is, stop being toxic. You don't know who isn't toxic? I don't receive any toxicity on Twitter. Nobody ever talks shit to me. If I talk shit to somebody, they'll talk shit back, and we'll get into a little brouhaha, and it usually lasts about 5 minutes, and then it's over.
Yeah.
But it usually only starts if I approach somebody and I talk shit. Nobody's talking shit about me.
So this community gets smaller and smaller. And so I'm worried that people who might be interested in Bitcoin and crypto and some of the bigger issues that we like to talk about, they just think, oh, I'm going to see what kind of news I can get from Twitter. And it's like, blah, like, what the hell am I doing here? I never want to be a part of this community. So, I mean, that's, I want to apologize on behalf of the entire crypto community that this shit has to happen, but it's also not our fault. We do our best to bring you. I don't know what
rise above the shit stream.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess so.
I'll get this really fast since we're still talking about Bitcoin really fast. So Nick Szabo said, they're debating about Bitcoin, and he said, what was it? Mark Cuban said, you don't have to convince me. You need to convince your neighbors. If they don't see value, that is the problem you need to solve. I'm not opposed to Bitcoin. I understand every argument being made. The world is littered with great ideas, products, services that failed for lack of consumers. And this goes back to our Tesla versus Edison comment. Like Tesla's tech was better. It was for lack of consumers.
Mhm.
Edison was a better salesman. And so Nick Szabo responds, neighbors, quote unquote, is a misleading spin though. How often do you buy something from your next door neighbor? Even retail generally is not the main use case and won't be for some time.
Oh my god, he's
And I'm like,
missing the point.
holy
completely.
shit. Now you're saying that retail isn't the purpose of Bitcoin anymore?
Yeah,
It's like, what the fuck, man?
we're just
The whole community is a train wreck. They can't even get on message of like what
Yeah.
the purpose of Bitcoin is anymore.
yeah. The purpose and definition of Bitcoin is going to keep changing the more useless it becomes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So speaking of useless crypto, we've got a few that I want to talk about Ethereum, but let's talk about this Matic dump
Ooh,
recently.
yes.
So what is Matic? Matic is it's a token. I think it was an IEO on Binance, but its
yeah.
purpose is to basically facilitate Ethereum. It's a kind of, I don't know if it's a sidechain in Ethereum or whatever. I don't really care. The thing is that we saw this cryptocurrency, we saw this token do like a 5x or 10x twice. It's happened twice this year. And this most recent time, it had such a violent drop that everybody who pays attention to crypto saw it and was like, oh shit, whose fault is this?
70% in under 35 minutes on Monday.
Yes. And so
70% in 35 minutes. That's crazy.
And I saw a lot of people, commenting like, oh, well, this is crypto. If you can't handle this, then you shouldn't be here or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, yes, we've had all kinds of pump and dumps. We've had things that shoot up 100%, 200% in a day and fall in an hour. But the thing that really kind of annoyed me about that, well, there's a couple things that I had concerns about. One is that this is a project that's been, promoting pretty heavily, and of course, the developers of the token say that they had nothing to do with the dump, which I have a hard time believing. Even CZ from Binance said that, that this is just people selling the crypto. It may be because this was one of the tokens that you could margin trade on Binance.
Yeah.
Right. Now, most of the coins that you can margin trade on Binance are relatively large cap coins. Matic was like a really odd one. Like it had a pretty small cap. I mean, it was large for a new token, but it was pretty small. And if you didn't notice that and you wanted to try margin trading, you thought, oh, Matic is one that went up, 5 times last time it pumped, you'd probably go on there and think like, this is a good opportunity to leverage this.
Yeah.
Well, what happens in over leveraged markets, and you can see this in Bitcoin, you can see this on it happened like crazy on what's it called? Deribit, and what's the other really bad one? What are the worst margin trading sites? XBT.
I honestly don't even get into those. I'm so scared.
We've blocked them out. Yeah. So what happens with over leveraged markets is that you just get these violent swings. Some people are asking what causes the BART formation on a chart. The BART head with the spiky top and it goes back down. Well, one answer to that is when you have so many people margin trading, that as soon as people get liquidated, it just causes a cascade, and it can happen very, very quickly, which causes a flash crash or flash pump either direction.
Yeah.
So we haven't quite seen this on the small cap altcoins yet, because
usually it's a Bitcoin thing. And so anybody doesn't understand the BART, it's if you're looking at the charts, like the Bitcoin to USD chart or any chart, it's an unnatural formation, an unnatural pattern, and it looks just like Bart Simpson's head. It shoots straight up, and then it kind of zigzags across, and then it shoots straight down, and it's usually over the course of like a week or two. And that's completely unnatural and in normal trading, like on the stock exchange.
Yeah, and it'll happen over and over again, and it'll do the inverse, and then I'll do the positive and then negative. It'll just keep on happening like that. It'll start. I noticed this in 2018 when it started happening. That's when I think people started to be like, "Wow, this is looking really weird."
Yeah,
and it's really like everybody's or one explanation of this is you got a bunch of over leveraged positions, people margin trading 25, 50, 100x. And then as soon as those stop losses or those liquidations get triggered, it's just like boom, down to the next level. So we haven't seen this on altcoins, which is really dangerous because now that there's more exchanges coming out, including Binance, where you can margin trade altcoins, these relatively illiquid, like very low volume, very low market cap coins now are going to be subject to this same like violent volatility.
And this is just manipulation by a few big bag holders.
It is, but at the same time, even if it wasn't, it would still be a problem in the future. Even if it wasn't manipulated, even if it was just even if it was just normal flash crashes. The reason I want to bring this up is because I have a feeling that this is what the next alt season is going to look like. I have a feeling we're going to see so many more of these kind of like slow climbs over 1 week and then just 80% in like an hour. I have a feeling we're going to see this like crazy because these liquidations are going to happen more and more. And we know that like the most inexperienced people come into crypto and then realize they can trade or they can get started trading very easily.
So I mean, this is 2018 Verge on crack. So Verge went up from less than a penny to 33 cents over the course of a month, and then over the course of like a week, it dropped back down to like 4 cents. But that was the course of a week. This did that in 35 minutes. So like it's so dangerous. Just people, if you're listening, do not do margin trading. It's going to the casino and being a blue collar worker making $35,000 a year and sitting down at the minimum $1,000 bet table, and then just getting your entire life savings liquidated in one hand.
Like this kind of violent volatility, this kind of drop, I think that it's probably something we're going to see a lot more in the next alt season or bull cycle or whatever, because now we're going to have margin trading altcoins, like probably a lot of really shitty ones too. So
and I just don't understand, like, so I mean, I know people hate regulation, but if you don't know what you're doing and you walk into the alt space or you walk into the crypto for the first time and you see margin trading and someone says, hey, you can make 100x gains on this, and you do like 30 minutes of research and you put in your money, like you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea how manipulated things are. You have no idea what a low cap. It took me a year to figure out large cap, low cap, market cap, all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's gambling is what it is. And like you can go to Vegas and play roulette by putting money on black or red or whatever, or you can learn every single possible hand in poker and memorize the deck and count cards in blackjack or whatever. To me, it's kind of like, I mean, how much of a professional gambler do you want to be in crypto, really?
Exactly.
And anybody who, most people that study the different ways that you can trade will know that using 100 times leverage, it's just, that means like the price moves against you 1% and you're basically liquidated. I mean, that's what it means.
You lose all your money.
It's anything with that much leverage. And I think that Binance is something like 100 or 150 times leverage.
My God.
Dude. It's literally just, there's no other purpose for that other than to get gamblers. Really, there's no reason.
And this is going to be a massive stereotype, but it's pretty much true. So I don't feel bad saying it. But if you know anything about Chinese people, they have
Hmm.
massive gambling addictions. So I
Well,
used to work for these Chinese people in New York, and every day, every
well,
single day after work, they
mm,
would all go down to Chinatown
I
and just gamble until 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and they would lose all their money.
there's degenerate gamblers of every nationality and
Everyone,
race. That's
but culturally, gambling is really accepted in that culture. It's
uh,
just it's a very common thing. Not as much as it is here. And I was really surprised. And they're like, "Oh no, everybody gambles like this." And I was
interesting.
like,
Well,
"Seriously?"
I mean,
And
it's
so,
all yeah.
but what I'm saying is like, so you have to think like of cultural norms. Whereas you go to China, this isn't that big of a deal. This is
I
very common. Gambling is very common. They're used to these risks, high risk, high reward type thing.
I
This
see
is
what you're
like
saying.
this is built into their culture.
I see what you're
Whereas in
saying. Yeah.
America, it's not super like we protect people here. We
Yeah.
we warn them about Vegas. We warn them about this. So you got to be careful. Like what you think is something built for you is actually built for somebody entirely different. You
So
know,
yeah, I just want to be clear. What you're saying is that gambling doesn't have the faux pas associated with it in China, most likely, as it does here in the U.S., which is why it's
yeah,
more accepted of a thing to do. We're not
yeah.
saying that Chinese people are all degenerates.
All degenerate? No, 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 no.
No,
Because
it's
that's the thing.
just
Is just like if you're, it's more culturally accepted out there than it is out here,
yeah.
and so they're going to be catering to that crowd versus our crowd. But then our crowd is getting mixed up, not realizing it because we're not like trained about it every single day,
I
and
guess
it's just
so.
like
I guess so.
it's
When it comes to, well, first of all, margin trading is illegal in the U.S., right? Because we actually want to protect
yeah,
people. I mean, I think it's. I mean, there's
yeah,
probably ways that you can do it. If I don't know, but the so the reason, like, I thought about this when I first discovered what margin trading was, because I wanted to know why it existed. Like, why is it there? Like, the one thing I could think of is if you are trading something like foreign currencies, which move like a fraction of a percent in a day, we have very low volatility. You need a way to make that volatility worth more to you so that you can actually trade it. And so that makes sense that you would want high leverage because you'd want to actually make your positions more valuable so that you can actually make money from a simple trade, from a little trade. But crypto is the opposite of that. You've got crazy volatility, and that's one reason that people like to trade it. So using margin to trade something that is already volatile just doesn't really make sense. And Binance and all of these margin trading, BitMEX or whatever, they're not. It's not like they have big neon signs that say like "Come gamble here," like greatest odds. It's not like in your face. They make it seem like you're doing something, professionally accepted or whatever. They like you're taking part in some sort of like, you know, I don't know, finance or something like. It's all fucking
yeah.
gambling. It's all gambling.
Well, and that's the thing. So think of if you're interested in margin trading, think of margin trading like points on a bookie bet. If you go to a bookie and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got points on this," it's not win or lose. It's not up or down. It's your team could win the game and you could still lose because you took a bet on points and they didn't beat the spread. And so there's all these different little intricacies, and that's what
Yeah.
margin trading is. You're just like, and you can just lose everything because they won by 6 instead of 7 points, and you can lose all your money.
Yeah.
And so
I guess
it's
that's a
those
good
little
analogy.
things like that where it's just like, ugh,
Well,
it's
I
such a
mean,
mess.
when like new inexperienced investors get into, as soon as they start trading other products like other derivatives, options and stuff like that. I never really got into trading options, but that's going to be another way people lose a lot of money because they go,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's a new way to gamble." Anyway,
yeah,
I just wanted to get that out there. We're probably going to see a lot more dumps like this in the future, and it's going to be. I mean, I remember thinking after the last, bull run to 20,000. I remember thinking like, well, maybe now the markets will be somewhat more mature. Maybe now we won't have this crazy volatility and we can actually, do some actual investing. But I was wrong. This is just going to get worse, and even this is going to get less mature. This is going to get more immature markets.
Yeah.
So
Well, so did you heard it? But Richard Hart actually said something about Plus Token scam, and that all coordinated with the run up to 20,000. No, up the run up to 14,000. And the minute they got caught, that's when it started to dump.
Yeah, there's all that's very possible. There's so many
Yeah.
correlating stories. And
Yeah,
that's another thing.
true.
Richard Hart loves to find correlation,
Yeah.
And it might be true. Maybe the reason we dropped from 20,000 was because that was when the CME markets opened and you could finally short Bitcoin. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But you can also look at like the history of the China FUD and Mount Gox dumping. Like you can actually line that up almost perfectly along with the Tether inflation. There's all these different ways that you can make sense out of the price. So, but those are all in hindsight, almost all in hindsight. There's no way to really predict the price.
So, but like, I don't know if I got cut off. We had some technical issues, but if you were around in 2018 and 2017 for The Verge, where it went from less than a penny to 33 cents and then dropped back down over the course of a month and a half, 2 months, we're going to get that times 1,000, and it's going to happen in a day.
Probably. And now, and this is probably one of the things that we can talk about next, is in 2017, all of these tokens were coming out as Ethereum tokens. They're all ERC20 tokens. Ethereum made it very easy for anybody to make a cryptocurrency, anyone to make a smart contract, anyone to create an ICO. And now we're going to have all these platforms that you can create securities, you can create tokens. We've got everything from Holochain to Ravencoin, BSV, the new versions of Ethereum. So we should all be prepared and expect another insane just infusion of bad technology and idiots that want to buy it. Basically, who knows? It could be really crazy and interesting. Maybe we'll get some actual innovation. We didn't really get innovation in 2017. We got a lot of speculation and we got a lot of, I don't know, interesting ideas.
I mean, we got a lot of interesting ideas, but that's all they were back then. And now some of the stuff is actually coming to fruition. Like 0x is actually doing some stuff, and Tezos is finally dealing with their drama and coming out on the back end, and it seems like everyone's getting interested. So, do we want to jump over to?
Let's do that. The Bruce Fenton. Bruce Fenton. He put out a tweet in the last couple of days where he's a CEO and an investor and a proponent of Bitcoin. He asked, if you were releasing a security token today, what chains would you do it on? And there was a lot of different answers. Some people were saying, do it on Bitcoin SV. So there was one person that said Ethereum, only one person. Ravencoin, Tezos. There was like a Holochain.
Yeah.
And that to me kind of like was interesting because like we're just saying, now there's a lot of other options to do this. Even Tether switched over to running on Ethereum now. And the new version of Ethereum is going to make it much easier to create tokens. It's going to work faster, and there's going to be privacy.
Tron. You mean Tron? It moved over to Tron.
Wait, Tether moved over to Tron? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was on Ethereum now. Oh, that's
no. So it started off on Omni, and then it moved to Ethereum, a couple of years ago, and then now it's also on Tron.
Tron, which doesn't really host anything except like gambling applications.
Yeah.
And Tether. Gambling and Tether.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some of these like some people saying that you could actually build on Bitcoin Cash. You could, what are some of these? I'm looking at the list right now.
It's funny that not a single person said Bitcoin, which just shows you how
people don't think of it that way. Yeah.
It just, because it doesn't have it doesn't have the capability to do anything like that.
No.
And now people are saying, well, that's not the purpose of it. It's like that's not a bug, that's a feature that it takes, a decade for it to even start to shift in a different direction. You're like, okay. I mean, I guess if that's what you want the most stable thing to be the least interesting and the thing you can't do anything with. Okay.
People, it's this list kind of proves to me how little people actually look into this stuff, because a lot of the replies are saying, well, you can't use Ethereum because Ethereum doesn't scale, which is, it's a little naive to me, because that's what is happening to Ethereum right now. Is you've got a bunch of developers, probably one of the more focused groups, because they are arguably the most centralized, which gets them a lot of criticism, but it means that they are able to release the Istanbul version, which now makes it easier for you to use ZK snarks, which I don't really understand, but it adds it adds privacy. It gets us closer to being able to have private transactions.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really understand it. There's a lot of math involved. And like, sharding is the idea that we're actually going to have smaller chains that can run in a more efficient way, which is a version of scaling. So to me, to just say you can't use ETH doesn't scale. It doesn't scale yet.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I didn't think came up enough was, because the question that he asked was, if you were releasing a security token, what would you use? Well, wouldn't you want to use the one that has the most, that has been the most accepted in terms of, for legal reasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you're
were
not
saying,
gonna have to worry about it with Ethereum right now. You're not gonna have to, if you put something in on Ethereum, you're not gonna have to worry about it, because for the most part, if you play by the SEC's rules, you're gonna be fine, because they know about Ethereum. They have rules in place. Like you've got options. But if you're like, I'm gonna launch it on Tron, it's like,
yeah,
the government's gonna be like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that.
I think Ravencoin that was kind of what, like, that was all for securities. You've got, Bitcoin SV, which that was a big reason for that fork, was because they wanted to play by the rules of the court, or so they said.
Yeah. That's the government fork of Bitcoin.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of new tokens and a lot of things that, are they securities or are they not securities? The SEC is going to have a ball with this next bull run, if it ever happens.
Honestly, it's so underfunded now because of Republicans. They're just kind of like, I think they're so overwhelmed at this point. I mean, nothing changed since 2008, and they were already underfunded and overwhelmed in 2008. And that's what led to the complete, meltdown of our society, of our country. Nothing changed. We didn't rebuild the SEC. We didn't make them stronger. We didn't do anything like that. Everything's exactly the same. So the next, the next bubble's going to come, and they're not going to be able to fix it. They're not going to be able to help us. So that's your warm, fuzzy news for the day.
Yeah, really. Like in crypto, I think there are probably the majority of people interested in crypto think of the SEC as this kind of evil organization that's trying to keep you from investing your money, like or like the IRS. It's like, okay, the IRS, you pay taxes to, so nobody really likes the IRS. They're unorganized, and if you get a letter from them in the mail, it's usually not good news. But man, like, are we prepared for the amount of scammy garbage that's going to be flying our way? And
I always try to joke around about it. Like, people are like, complain about regulation, and I'm like, okay, perfect example is driver's license. Everyone complains about having to get a driver's license in the DMV and blah 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 blah. Everyone's like, Americans are such whiners. They just fucking love to whine all the time about shit.
I hate the DMV.
All right, you're a whiner now. But then, so every time somebody does it, I post this clip from China where they don't have any stop signs and they don't have to get a license to drive their cars. And it's just this intersection where it's like crash after crash after crash after crash after
Yeah.
crash
You
after
play
crash
like
after
the
crash.
Benny Hill theme song, and
Yes.
then you speed it up, and
And it's just this
super
one
fast.
intersection, and it shows you over the course of a year like 1,000 crashes because people they're hitting bikers, they're hitting pedestrians, they're hitting this. It's just like they have no fucking clue what they're doing because they're a first generation driving country. You know, I went to China 25 years ago, and they had buses and bikes, and that was it. Like almost nobody had a car. It was just all bikes everywhere. And now it's, there's like a billion cars there practically or something like that. And so everyone, like the reason why men were always better than women at driving is because nobody taught the women in America how to drive. They would teach the men how to drive. And so you had like 3 generations of teaching men how to drive. So it's just kind of expected. You learn how to do it. And then now we're doing it with women. Now women are becoming better drivers, but it takes time. You need like generational learning. As like as a kid, you're just expected to drive. They say this is how you drive, and you just kind of learn from a young age. But when you're learning at like 30 or 40 how to drive for the first time, it's a complete disaster, especially if no one around you is driving. And so you got to have regulations and stuff like that just to protect people, because you can't just have people who don't know what they're doing coming into a community where people do know what they're doing and just expect them to like be fine. No, you got to have them take a test. You got to teach them about lights. You got to teach them about stop signs. You got to teach them about this stuff. And that's what regulation is good for. And I think like if you don't think that, if you think it's just going to like some utopian world where everybody's just going to know what to do the first time and no accidents are going to happen, it's just like people drive me crazy when they think that way. That was a long-winded rant.
No, it's cool. Yeah. Okay.
Unpack it, JJ.
Well, I can actually understand the frustrations that people have with regulations, with government and all that. And partly it's kind of the government's fault. It's kind of, well, not the government's fault, the regulator's fault. You have generations, like you say, of, well, not people driving like girls, but you have generations of people being taught to just stay within the lines and not ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And so people do that. So they kind of develop this sense of invincibility. Like, I'm not going to get hurt because, I mean, if you raise your kids to always be, in very safe environments, and you don't let them ever get anywhere near danger, then when they are actually faced with danger, they're not going to recognize it.
Yeah, but that's bad parenting.
Well, yes, but that's just my analogy for, I think, the way that people, when they are faced with these opportunities where they're going to get scammed, it's like, okay, well, many of you probably come from a place where there's organizations that are there to fight the crime, and because that's a part of our culture, because that's a part of our system, we're just kind of used to that. So this fantasy of, well, I don't want to have any regulations and I don't want to have any government or whatever it is kind of like, I don't want to put too much, like, I don't want to just call these people idiots, because in a way, in a way,
your word, not mine.
I don't want to call libertarians idiots, but like, it is kind of like, I get it. You've been taught the wrong thing, and and now you have some resentment towards this thing that you think is oppressing you, even though it's supposed to be providing a service. One thing we talk about we've talked about several times on this show is kind of bring it back to the elements of what governance is, because it's something we talk about in crypto, and how really, I mean, we created governments, small groups of people, to make decisions for us because it was too difficult for a bunch of people to make decisions. Yeah. And so regulation comes out of that. It's like, we can't all individually be vigilantes, and we can't all be, fighting scams constantly. We actually want to hire a group of experts to do that. Now, but
it's our job to regulate the experts.
Yes.
And we do that through voting.
We do
that
that
educating ourselves and then voting and making sure the person who represents us is honest.
Now, the problem that I have with that is that means we have to trust the voting. And if the voting can't be trusted, then that can be a big problem. And when talking about crypto, that's why governance is such a big deal with how these projects operate. How do you change? How do you fork? How do you update? How do you do all of these things with something that's supposed to be decentralized?
Yeah.
I mean, like if you think about it in terms of like, if you compare it to governing a country, it's like you have to figure out some way that you're all going to agree. And the only way to do that is by voting. Yeah, but I don't know.
Well,
At
so
least in the US,
Maker,
it's really hard. Actually, throughout the world, it's really hard to trust your voting system. And sometimes there's no way to do it. We have a fucking
you have to have
here.
good watchdogs, and I mean, so the UN has a watchdog service that they send, monitors to make sure everything's legal and everything's going by the books, and like you need to have independent monitors, and we have that in America. We have independent watchdog groups, and that's just like it's like you got to have people watching the people who are watching the people who are watching. And it just keeps going down the line. And that's what we have, a free press and this and that, and like, because that way people can like, call the Post or the New York Times or Fox News or whoever and say, look, this shady shit is going on. I need you guys to look into it, and they do. And so it's like that's why it's so important to have a free press. But MakerDAO is a perfect example of this. Somebody just found out that MakerDAO, you could create a contract, and you used to have I think 21 minutes where somebody could go in and look at the contract and make sure it wasn't scammy and could cancel it immediately if it was a scam, if it was going to steal people's money or something like that.
And who could that one person be? Could that person be anybody? So
you could go in and I don't know, through consensus or something like that, you could say, hey, this is a scam, and then through consensus it would get shut down. I'm not 100% sure, but apparently they changed it to 0 seconds. So now there's no physical way for anybody to look at a MakerDAO contract and see if it's a scam or not without it going through already, without it getting launched. So it used to be you would create the contract, you'd put it out there, you'd have to wait a certain amount of time, people could check it, and then it would get launched. And now it gets launched immediately, and there's no way for it to. So somebody went through the mental gymnastics of figuring out like, hey, if I had $20 million, I could steal $583 million in 15 seconds because I would have enough voting weight with $20 million to break the system and steal every single dollar that was in the MakerDAO contract.
Well, you're only as strong as your weakest link, really. Yeah. And if you remove entire links, then you're setting yourself up for these kinds of things.
And that's what I will say is my biggest complaint about the Ethereum community is they're too trusting of each other. There's not enough watchdogs in place. And perfect example is with the latest fork, the hard fork of Ethereum. Apparently there was some major debacle and they had to fix it within 5 minutes or something like that. But nobody had checked this guy's math, and it was missing one of the most core things, and he just forgot it. And there aren't enough checks and balances in the Ethereum community. And people are, I don't know. I get the feeling of just it's the community itself is just far too trusting of the people in the Ethereum Foundation and the Parity group. It was somebody who worked at Parity, and he forgot this one major thing, and they found it, and it's just oh my God. And people could have lost all their money or something like that. But everybody had already updated all their nodes, and nobody had really even checked it. And so there's not enough checks and balances in the Ethereum community right now, I feel like.
In any of crypto, and that's something that newcomers need to be aware of. There's too much trust in general, and there's no way around it really, because you're not going to be able to understand every aspect of your investment. You're just not going to be able to do that. What comes to mind actually is if I can find the audio, I'll play it when I'm editing this episode. But um, when it comes to the slogan "Don't trust, verify."
Yeah.
This is like that's really good in theory, but not everyone can do that. In fact, most people can't. But
Yeah. It's
Daniel
ridiculous.
Krawitz, friend of the show, who's been on a couple of times, he caught. It was a couple months ago. He caught Tone Vase at a convention and stopped him and interviewed him. And I think Tone Vase was actually wearing the "Don't Trust, Verify" shirt. And Daniel straight up went into, like asking him a technical question about Bitcoin, and then Tone Vase says, "Well, I don't need to understand the technical aspects of Bitcoin because I trust the developers in the BTC Core, in the Bitcoin Core group, just like I would trust I put my trust into the nuclear engineers to run a nuclear power plant, and I wouldn't try to take that on myself." That was his example,
Oh my god.
and it was just like, oh my God, this is the guy who wears the "Don't Trust, Verify" shirt.
Yeah.
And I get it. The thing is that we can't like do all of our own research. The DYOR, the do your own research thing, is a meme. There's no way you're going to be able to do it. So yeah, you've got to be skeptical. You've got to be curious. You've got to ask these questions. You don't want to just put money into something that you don't understand, but at a certain point, you're going to have to decide on who you trust. And that's kind of one of the reasons that we created this podcast, is we wanted to
Exactly.
look for people that we could trust.
But that's the thing, is just like so, there's the meme of absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right? So eventually, if you give somebody enough power and enough money, they're going to become corrupted. Everybody. And so that's
Guess so, unless
the
they're a
idea is
saint, yeah.
you can't trust anybody. All you can do is trust somebody for a certain amount of time while they earn your trust. And you have to keep checking, and they have to keep earning your trust. If it comes down to your money, if it comes down to your life, if it comes down to your water supply, if it comes down to your food supply, you can't give them blanket trust. They have to continue to earn it, and you have to continue to question them and make them earn your trust. If you're giving them this amount of power. And so if you're getting financial advice from somebody, if you're listening to somebody in the crypto community, they have to continually earn your trust. And like Peter McCormick, he no longer has my trust.
Yeah.
He fell off the deep end, and he doesn't have my trust. I can't trust him to do any kind of. I can't trust him to have any kind of journalistic integrity. He just doesn't have it.
We never really trust it. I mean,
No. I mean, he was always kind of a joke, but I don't trust. But that's the thing. I don't trust anybody he brings on the show anymore.
Yeah,
because everything he does
thing.
now is an agenda to try to sell Bitcoin, to try to get people to buy Bitcoin. And so I just don't trust anything that comes out of their mouths anymore, because it's a show with an agenda.
Yeah.
And so so now I'm constantly looking for something new. So Crypto Daily, he jokes around. He's never really shilling stuff. And when he does shill something, he says, "Hey, these people paid me to talk about this." He's very upfront and honest about it. So I know, okay, I'm going to take everything he says about this product that he's getting paid to talk about with a grain of salt. And he's telling me to take it with a grain of salt. He's telling me that he's getting paid for it.
He's a good
example.
It's like, yeah.
So right now, Crypto Daily has earned my trust, and he continues to earn my trust. But eventually, he may not have my trust if he does something to no longer have it. You gotta like.
It's so funny.
Get off autopilot. You got to constantly be checking your sources and rechecking your sources.
Peter McCormick, who cosplays as a journalist, versus Crypto Daily, who makes funny intros for his show and crazy backgrounds, has your trust. Well, you should, follow us on Twitter and then tag somebody that you have learned to trust. I think that'd be something, because we could all use more of those people in our feed.
Yeah,
I will say that that's something. If you do spend time on Twitter, you get the echo chamber effect, and then that's when these inside jokes start to make sense, and that's not really a good thing. Kind of round out the conversation we've had over this past hour. you want to these people need to earn your trust. They need to continue to earn your trust. But we also do need to keep looking for other people. We just need to keep doing it.
And I think that's where the Vile Gang became so popular on Twitter, is because people were just tired of the echo chamber, and these were the first people who really were standing up to the Bitcoin core community.
Yeah, the Vile Gang is Joshua Davis, also friend of the show. I guess, can I call him friend? Frenemy of the show?
Sure.
Friend of the show, Kyle Gibson and Caspian C. These guys who love to. We haven't had Bitfinex on. I don't think he's going to join us, but he's not really part of the Vile Gang. Those guys use comedy as a way to get attention and troll.
Yeah.
But they're important to have. And I'm curious the way things are going, because in crypto you'll get a trend, and a trend will turn into into a mentality. I'll turn into a school of thought. Like, I have a feeling that you and I, Michael, are going to pivot and become maximalists soon, because it's going to become so popular to be not a maximalist. It's like everybody's going to start loving Ethereum and altcoins pretty soon. They're just going to walk behind Richard Hart as he becomes more maximalish. And we're going to have to take up the mantle and be like, you know what? Buy Bitcoin.
It's just the whole thing is become a joke out of itself, because like Jameson Lopp, who's like this hardcore, like quote unquote cypherpunk, just wrote something to get crypto deleted, taken off Twitter because he didn't like that somebody was checking him. He didn't like that he was being checked.
It was brilliant. I love the manipulations of crypto deleted tweets, by the way. Did you see what the stacking USD guy did? That was brilliant.
No, I missed it.
As soon as, it was just a marketing genius. As soon as he got on the list, he made and deleted like 100 tweets linking to his Telegram group. So since Crypto Delete is just a bot, it just gave him like 100 tweets of free marketing for his paid group. It was kind of genius. I was like, damn, that guy is good.
We need to do that.
And he and then he, after that, he was like, I'm going to retire from the paid group. I think I've hit my I think there's no farther way up I can get from here. That guy like came into crypto in like mid 2018 and just skyrocketed to the top because he was such a genius marketer.
Oh my God. We need to hire him.
Good. He'll never work for us. He's like super entrepreneur, but yeah, it'd be good to have somebody who can think like that.
Yeah.
I liked what Mike in Space was doing. He's taking screenshots of his own deleted tweets because he says he misses crypto deleted tweets. So he's just going to start doing it out of respect for our fallen friends.
Yeah. So like that's what Bitcoin has become. It's about censoring ideas that are different.
Yeah. Wait,
and
how did Lopp get crypto deleted banned? What did he do?
He wrote a Medium post.
I saw that.
And wrote some algorithm or something like that, and then it took off, and then he got that account and the person's main account taken down as well.
I guess if you said like if you created a bunch of tweets and then deleted them, that was just a bunch of like bigoted racist stuff.
Yeah, something like that.
You could technically get him kicked off. I don't know if that's the way, but anyway.
So he did something, and then he pretty much took credit for it, and then Rocky Raccoon, whatever the guy's name is, he tried to take credit for it too, and then Peter was like promoting him, and the guy's like a total scammer. And
Rocky Raccoon.
It's just
is it Randy
Raccoon? Or
what? Yes, man. All of this shit, like our listeners probably like, don't know and don't care. But
it's such a cesspool. But like this is what crypto has become, and and people say like, oh, crypto isn't Twitter, and it's just like, these are some of the major players in the space, and this is how they're acting, and on a public network. Like,
dude, we get people like Saifedean, and I just tweeted the other day, like, who is Kevin Pham again, and why am I supposed to care about this guy? made himself a personality. He's never created a crypto. He's just
Yeah.
a Twitter personality that people seem to like.
And apparently he's harassing porn stars now, and then apologized and is taking a break from crypto as well, or from Twitter
Right.
as well.
Right.
And it's just like, oh man,
That's
dude,
what
this
happens.
is.
So
it's just-
maybe this is a signal that we're at the bottom. This is the
Maybe.
dregs. This is
Yeah.
what's left.
oh man,
Problem is if these are the hardcore like crypto fans with integrity, man.
we're screwed. Well,
Just
so
wait till-
really
wait
fast.
till
Let's
the
pivot
Verge
really
Moon
fast.
Boys come back.
Let's pivot really fast for one last thing, and this is my fear, is because all those people are doing all their cesspit
Pivot to
shit.
something more positive.
Yeah.
Your biggest fear.
Yeah. So these are the people that are kind of controlling the ecosystem of crypto. And while that's happening, places like Kraken, places like Coinbase, places like I forget who else are all starting to act as staking clients now. So Tezos
right.
is a proof of stake chain, and you have to actually stake it with a staking group when you do that, and then you get like 6% back or whatever. And then if the whatever the group is has a fee for running everything and making sure it's online all the time and all that. So Kraken is now doing it for free. Coinbase does it for 20% fee, which is crazy. 20% is just off the wall crazy. Most places are anywhere from like 5 to 15%. If
You're
you
probably
look
not going to
online.
make any profit staking if you do that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
But the danger is Kraken's going to do it for free, for no fee at all, encouraging people to keep their crypto on their centralized exchange. And while everybody's having all this infighting about decentralized, or you're not decentralized enough, or you're not serious, or you're a scam, or you're this, centralized companies like Kraken, like Coinbase, like all these centralized companies are starting to pull in the noobs and say it's totally fine. Just keep your crypto on our exchange. We're going to be a bank. Blah blah blah.
oh yeah.
The exact opposite of what crypto was supposed to be.
Oh yeah. And they all started doing this when they started creating their own tokens.
Yep.
It's just like, yeah, that's basically, in my opinion, the equivalent of being a bank when you start making your own money. And
Yep.
then when you start offering new products like staking, which is essentially just a time deposit, it's what Bitcoin Hex is doing, right?
Yep.
So you offer that. You're going to offer other lending services soon if they don't. Oh, wait, margin trading. That's lending.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the thing. It's
be
just
careful what
it's
you
all
wish
big
for.
bankers. It's all, and that's the thing. It's like, so when you have all this infighting in the community, this stuff kind of comes along, and it seems like a breath of fresh air. People are like, oh, that's so exciting! Now my Tezo bag is going to go up, and you're like, it's going to go up because it's becoming more centralized. That's never a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
And so if the whole purpose of cryptocurrency is to be decentralized, it's just, I get frustrated because it's just,
It's not supposed to be decentralized. I don't know if that is it, because
yeah, I just get frustrated because I feel like there's no coherent direction for the cryptocurrency community anymore. Like I just don't see it.
maybe there never was. Maybe there is not supposed to be. Maybe it's supposed to be. I think it's actually too big. It's like redesigning the internet. There's not going to be one focus of it, and I think that it's going to be really confusing for a lot of new people, and that's why I'm grateful that we get to do things like this show where we get to talk about these things that other people, I don't know, maybe the other crypto enthusiasts think we're talking about stuff that is boring or yesterday's news, but there's a lot of people who just don't hear this a lot. So I'm glad we get to talk about it. I do want to give credit to Richard Hart just to round out this episode one last time, because he accused Peter McCormick of being a scammer because Peter McCormick promotes Kraken as his sponsor on his show. And I love how Richard actually says, you know what, the exchanges are the most evil services. They're the most evil part of this system. because they're making all their money off you. They want you. They don't want you to have a hardware wallet.
No.
If they could, they would link your Trezor to their wallets online. If they could, they would do everything to keep your money there so that you can
Keep
trade
trading.
it, so they can make their fees from it. They're going to offer all kinds of products and all kinds of services and give you all kinds of gamification to make you want to stay there.
And make
And
you
just-
want to keep trading. Because they make their money on your trades.
Yeah, and it's just sick. Richard, I'm glad he's been taking this anti-trading thing seriously, telling people not to trade, because for the majority of people it's not good. And even when it is good, it's only good for one party.
Yeah.
What are you adding to the world when you just sit around trying to take other people's money? Really?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, everybody. At keyword crypto on Twitter, keyword-crypto.com. That's about all you need from us.
Pretty
We got a
soon,
Patreon.
keywordcrypto.com. Next 3 to 5 business days.
Yes. No
We
more
got it.
dash. No
We
more
got
dash. All right. Moving up in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then we're going to have a good site soon. I
Yeah.
think.
Eventually.
Yeah.
And good
All right,
and good
everybody.
guests. We got some good guests lined up, so you'll like it.
We do. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
going to be talking about privacy a little bit more since it's becoming more of a thing,
Yeah.
and the controversies around it. Ask yourself this: do you actually want a private cryptocurrency? So, with that, I'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Are you familiar with the biological function of antlers?
I am not.
Oh
Daniel, I wish you the best. Keep trying, but eventually we will see you back on Bitcoin.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I loved your early work back in the day.